And this is also being telecast live on YouTube and Facebook. The recording, of course, will be available later on YouTube on our NISOR channel. And keep your comments coming in. Yeah. So can you remove the slide, please? So let's start the session now. We have two very interesting guests today. The topic of the session is, building global brands. Got Usha Bora. Hi, Usha.
Hi,
live from Paris. Usha is founder, CEO of Germany, Paris. And then we've got Vinu Sundaresan, who's the CEO of Weeklusive. Germany, Paris is a very high-end lifestyle brand. And, today Usha is here to talk about her experience of starting Germany, and then, the connection, the Indian connection, the artisanal connection to the world. Whereas Vinu is a multi-brand owner of Weeklusive, which is a multi-brand high-end outlet, e-commerce marketplace for everything high-end Indian luxury goods. On that note, welcome you both, and welcome all nice community and audience to this exciting session.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vidya.
Yes. I want to kickstart with you, Usha. We've had many conversations about, the challenges of going global, particularly in Indian brand, but you made it look so easy because you made it a reality. So tell us about your journey and how did you get this brainwave in the first place to start Germany, and that too in a place like Paris?
Okay, so just to tell you very quickly about myself, I was born in Assam, in a little village called Tipong, which is very close to the Arunachal border. And I grew up there, and then did my schooling in Assam, went to study in Delhi for high school, went on to study economics at LSR, and then I went to IIM Ahmedabad, went to work in Hong Kong, and then I met a Frenchman there and decided that I wanted to move to Paris. So that was step number one. I moved to Paris. I didn't get a single job because I didn't speak French at that time. So I had to go back and do a year of studies at ESSEC, which is a really good business school. And that sort of opened up lots of doors, and I ended up getting a job at L'Oreal. Wow. So I worked in marketing at L'Oreal for a couple of years, international marketing. It was a really good place to start a career in France, as you can imagine. I was working at the headquarters here in the luxury brands division, so met a lot of very interesting people, learned how to work in France, because that's, the culture here is probably as important as the job content. So that was a really good school to start my career here. And then after a few years, I asked myself if I wanted to be in a large company for the rest of my life. And the answer was a very clear no. I was an entrepreneur at heart, always have been. And at some point that had to emerge. And I said, how can I create something which will allow me to build a link with India and bring something new to France? And I was always very inspired by the women of the Northeast, the Naga women, the Assamese women, the women from Meghalaya, who are actually very strong women. And they have this culture of weaving. Everybody weaves in their homes. And I always found that this was such a lovely way of showcasing something that is not at all known in Europe. And so the whole idea was how to bring this craft, the weaving craft, to a country like France. So it meant a lot of homework. It meant a lot of training. And slowly, I launched a very small range of scarves. Just wanted to try out, different materials like Eri silk, which was very famous in Assam, weaving techniques, bleeding of color, bleeding of yarn, whether respecting the sizes, the fringing, all these basic quality issues. And then slowly the range got bigger. And today we have a large range of home products and accessories.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for sharing that with us. Very inspiring story. I have a few questions. I'll come back to you. Vinu, take us through your journey of starting Weeklusive. What was the genesis of the idea, and how old is Weeklusive? And share us, where Weeklusive today in the mainstream commerce of America, for example.
Sure. Yeah, again, and thank you, Vidya. A little bit about myself. once they say you are a Desi at heart, it never leaves you. So I'm still a Desi at heart, but spent all of my schooling and college in the south of India. And for the last 30 plus years, it's been in the Silicon Valley. So a technologist by profession, but have done various things with technology to help with marketing, with telecommunications, with finance. And at the end of the day, after the last company, I decided that I have to do something that was more India focused, and that's when I took the plunge into this company. Company's name is Vmobo. The brand that we're talking about is Viclusive, and the basic idea was to help connect brands and consumers using technology. At that point in time, it wasn't really focused on sending India to the world. But as I started the whole journey, and we brought along around 300 plus brands and over 300,000 members who transacted with these brands, I wanted to stay above the fray of discounting. So I didn't want to go down the Amazon model. So we focused on lifestyle, and we focused on the premium to luxury category lifestyle products. And eventually we managed to acquire, to make the whole experience Uber-like, with payments and with content, and to reach. Fundamentally, that the problem being solved is, how do I get the brands to reach the rest of the audience around the world by solving all the other pieces in between? Because brands do a fantastic job of getting what they do, but getting it in the hands of a consumer halfway across the world is a challenge, even today. So that was the genesis of Viclusive. So it became a marketplace. We started with offline brands and then made it online. But along the way, I found that there are very few marketplaces in the world that capitalize on what is probably the 13th or 14th largest country, if it were a country, by GDP, which is the global Desis. There is over 13 million global Desis around the world that is outside India. And there isn't a single institutional approach to service them, right? I mean, we have success stories with the Latinos. We have success stories now with Korean and Chinese. But India is the largest English-speaking population around the world, well educated, earned well, still very culturally rooted. So that became my focus, if you will, for the marketplace, is to sell India to the rest of the world, right? With brands across all categories of lifestyle, and also to ensure that luxury doesn't have to only come from Spain, Italy, France. It can come from a small village, and luxury being defined as quality of craftsmanship, heritage, and the ability to evoke memories or nostalgia. So that became my passion, and that's what Viclusive is today. It's a marketplace for brands, big and small, across the lifestyle category, selling to the rest of the world, while we have solved the problem of delivering to the customer global Desi, or the culturally open, as we call it. You don't have to be a Desi to love Desi products. If you're
That's what I was going to come to, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yes.
As all businesses, you have to focus on a particular audience, but the culturally open today consume yoga and turmeric latte across the world, but they have a lot more to discover, and that's our mission.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Very interesting mission and the brand indeed. Usha, how did you come upon this name, Jamini? Because it sounds exotic. Did you have any?
You broke up a little bit, Vidya. I don't know if it's you or is it me, but
probably
how did
it's
I come
me.
up? Okay, how did I come up with the name? All right.
Yes.
So Jamini actually comes from Jamuni, which means purple. Very simple. In Assam, when it rains, there's just like lotus water lilies everywhere. I mean, you walk through, we have to wade through these swamps. And our logo is the water lily flower, and the color of the petal is purple. Jamini, Jamini. That's how.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm asking in this context that you're operating out of India in a French-speaking country in Paris. Of course, Paris is always known for luxury and luxury products and its openness. We discussed about the Lakme story as well long ago, Simone Tata.
Yes.
Right. So, I know this, you had this inherent need, drive for entrepreneurship. And then, you sort of looked within yourself and said, like, I'll go back to my roots and bring something that I'm proud about and
Yeah.
part of, right? So so far, how's the response been? Because usually serving to a Western palate would mean doing a lot of amends and tailoring to the Western tastes, right? So how did you think through the process of what your brand and your products mean for the Western audience as such?
Vidya, I didn't really think that much, because I'm a very multicultural person myself. I mean, being from Assam is almost like not being from India, to tell you very frankly. So you're already from a different country, and then you move to Delhi, and then you move to Ahmedabad, and you move to Hong Kong. So my brain is already super multicultural. So I didn't really and when I moved to Paris, I've been here for 23 years now. So I'm wired to be a very multicultural, creative person. I just put on paper in terms of motifs and designs and colors and mix, which is who I am. So it is a multicultural brand. It has roots in India, but it's very strongly French. Our color palette is completely French. It's not Italian. It's not English. It's not. We are very clear. Our main market is continental Europe, because it's a very specific aesthetic, and that really came to me very naturally because of my own life experience. So, but you're right. I mean, the couple of things we had to do in a parallel fashion, and that I think, our schooling and university and all that whole journey helped me a lot, which is the marketing and communication. And long before craft and artisan made was the fashion, like Jamini was in that space right from the birth of the brand. And it was all about communicating who's making the product, how difficult it is to do it, and why we should promote this craft, and why we should help these craftswomen and the craftsperson. It was right from the beginning. So it was a very human, very mission-driven approach, but at the same time, extremely aesthetic. It was not one without the other. And we talked about this as a driving force of the brand. And there was no way people were not going to be touched by the story, and I was very lucky because a few very important journalists heard this story right in the beginning and said, this is something we have to support. So that was one thing that really helped Jamini. The other thing that really helped Jamini was that I decided very long ago, like we just heard right now, that why should the whole luxury market space, I wouldn't even call it luxury, I would say high-end brand market space, be dominated by lifestyle brands that are influenced by American lifestyle, like Tommy Hilfiger, Ralph Lauren, or by Italian lifestyle, Armani and Gucci Prada, or by Japanese lifestyle, Kenzo, Muji in another space, right? Why can we not put something based out of India, especially because most of these products come from India and nobody ever talked about it. So for me, it was like a mission. I said, this is not acceptable. Like big French brands, Dior, Chanel, all of them get their best handcrafted work done out of India. And it's only recently that they start talking about it. They never did. And for me, it was like, I have to bear the flag. So yeah. I bore the flag right from the beginning, and guess what? It paid off. So
yeah, that's fantastic, great story. I mean, today you're you're present not only in Paris but in other places too. You have two exclusive outlets in Paris, and which neighborhoods are these?
So we are in the we are in the neighborhood called the Canal Saint-Martin, which is the equivalent of the East Village. So very trendy, very boho village. Yeah. And we are right now having a pop-up in one of Paris's most beautiful department stores called the BHV.
Okay.
We have about between 25 and 30 countries where our brand is represented now, about 150 resellers, multi-brand stores that buy from us all across the world. So yeah, so we're reaching out quite a bit with our products.
Oh, fantastic, great to know that. Vinu, tell me the kind of, I know you also clarified saying that you're just not selling to Desis, but Desis plus the others, because if you heard Usha say, she's taken something out of Northeast and then she's selling it to a European audience primarily, right? So I will come to you, Usha, on the product market fit and, how did you go about, deciding those? But Vinu, you have a wide playing field, so to speak, because you can sell n number of products. How do you go about, building a brand called Weeklusive? How do you sort of connect it to India at all? How did you go about identifying the products that you want to display? What's been that kind of exercise? How did you come about doing that?
Right. Now, and building a brand is a journey, and it's going to take a lot of time, engagement, satisfaction among customers. So in fact, I think look at the brand from our perspective as something that's a result of having done what we do, serving customers across the world. And while we are focusing on high-end luxury, whatever the term you want to use, it's about making sure that we are catering to people's desires for personal expressing themselves, right? Expressing yourself personally. It could be something that is completely nostalgia driven for them. It could be completely something that they want to express because of their connect with nature or the environment, or it could be very much just emotional fulfillment. So for us, as you said, it's a wide palette. We have to cater to different types of consumers in the world across different geographies, but it always comes down to a few things. I mean, what do we actually sell? For most of these people, it is time, right? They don't have time to go search. So discovery and saving time to get the best of what they're looking for is one of the major points of service that we provide. A second is making sure that it is authentic and aspirational from their point of view. Because today luxury is personal. It's not defined by price. It's not defined by geography. It could be many things, including these two. So at the end of it, it has to be authentic. Third, we tell a story about the brand, and we don't do any selling. We don't market ourselves by saying, this is something that you'll get at a cheaper price or faster shipping or free shipping.
What's your communication to your audience for Weeklusive, right? Is it occasion based, like you have a Diwali or a Holi that you want to come and people shop, or you want to shop through the year? Is it connecting back to your homeland and nostalgia? What does it mean for a Caucasian white or an African American to come and purchase from Weeklusive?
So there are three levels of communication, right? One is to communicate who we are, what we do, what kind of products we curate and make available, so that they understand that the breadth of choice is available for what they care about. Second, it's about making sure that they understand that there is authenticity, reliability in what we deliver, uniqueness in what we deliver. And finally, third, it is seasonal. It's appealing to that emotional aspiration at that point in time, whether it's Christmas or Diwali or just Valentine's Day or a general Earth Day, which happens to be, I think, today. And so it's about communicating at different levels, and depending on how engaged you are with us, our level of communication gets personalized and changed over time.
I see. Okay. No, thanks for that. I want to know more about the kind of audience you have and what are your popular categories and all of that. We'll come back to that. Neil, Usha, in your journey to build Jamini, I was alluding to the fact that how did you crack the product market fit? I know it's a ongoing journey of increasing products and then increasing audience. And do people see this as an occasion where that they come to for their selves or for their homes or offices? How do they perceive Jamini as a brand?
Okay, very interesting question, because we did a little B2B and a B2C survey actually, because I have a new associate who came on board, and so it's very interesting to see what you try to portray and what the customer actually sees.
Yes.
Very interesting, a very interesting study we did. I have to tell you very frankly, the number one thing that the people buy our brand for is the design.
Wow, very nice.
So that is something that was a big surprise, because we don't sell our brand for its design. We sell it to make the customer feel good about herself, which is you're doing something good by buying this brand. You are traveling to another country when you buy this brand. You learn something when you buy this brand. Our entire communication is based on how good does it make you feel when you buy a Jamini product, because it should make you feel good. Our brand should be different from any other beautiful brand, because we give you that extra something which makes you feel good when you buy Jamini. That's
So
really all.
in a way, this is social beauty conscious. Is that what the brand was originally intended to be?
I don't know. I mean, I find that social beauty conscious word a little bit derogatory, to tell you very frankly. I just wanted to make the customer felt that when she bought Jamini, she was getting more than the product. We were not selling a product. She was feeling good about herself, not just for her home. You know what I mean? It's a whole emotional connect, that when I buy this product, either I feel good because I'm learning something new, or because I'm giving something to somebody who needs something. So it's that really a plus value that's not visible in the product.
Now, interesting you mentioned this, Usha. I asked this in the context that in today's time, then there is so much of narrative around sustainability and climate change and handcrafted and supporting marginalized societies, the Weaver community, for example, right? There are so many social angles to what business and brand has become, right? Which is why I'm asking the context, what's the communication consciously that you communicate to people?
So this is the thing. So we are always communicating on why, if you buy Jamini, how does it improve your life? Not just from the product point of view. How does it help you learn something new, like we're giving tips on recipes or introducing them to people that have nothing to do with our world, but it brings something into my consumer's world. We're giving them a chance to travel to a different country, because we introduce them to people on the ground, to local guides, to people who are cultivating coffee. For example, in South India, we're going to do something with a coffee brand called Araku, just for the experience. So it's always bringing something into their world which has nothing to do with the Jamini product. Yeah. So they're really getting that extra value for money, which you cannot put into words.
Yeah, no, Araku is,
Araku, yeah.
Yes, yeah. Anuradha Anupama, so she was here on our show earlier on.
Super.
Yeah, with the lady from Fab India as well, right?
Okay.
Sharma. So we had a great session about Araku coffee and the experience.
Oh, great.
So I'm quite familiar with it because they started the first unit cafe in Paris, right?
So in fact, I was on the phone with them this morning, and we are going to collaborate on something in a few weeks. So yeah.
Yes. So from what I hear from you, you're making a Jamini much more than just apparel and home decor.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
They don't need me to do a beautiful home decor brand. I mean, this is the temple of beautiful things. So why would they need somebody like me who has no design experience, no product experience in textiles to come and do this? But what I'm bringing is much more than a product, and which is why, and the good thing is, that's how I started Jamini. But the good thing is that our product is super, and which is what came out when we did the B2C and B2B survey. They said, we absolutely love your designs. So it's like getting two for the price of one, right? We set out to do
it gets me back to a very important question, which is an unknown brand, a newbie like Jamini, with Indian cultural moorings. How did you think about pricing, and how did you think about the positioning of the brand itself, right? Because there is an element of quality when you have to look at handcrafted stuff coming from India and all of that stuff, right? But being, if you're familiar with the textile space, large brands anyway source from India, right?
Oh, yeah.
So how did you the perception of made in India and how did you go about positioning and the pricing?
So we basically benchmarked with the best French brands. There was no question of, because it's a new brand or we don't know, we're going to price it low or anything. It was just benchmark with brands which are very popular here, a couple of decor brands. We benchmarked with them, and we just kept communicating. We just kept telling them that if you see something that doesn't look if the printing is off, it's because it's handmade. If you see a little thread that's coming out, it's because the weaver probably had a different tension when she was setting up her loom. So we are communicating all the time, like 3 times a week. We send newsletters, social medias, everything about the process and how manual it is and how it depends on the artisan who's making it. So luckily I would say that on average of 100 people who buy our brand, we probably have 1.5 that comes back to us and says, there's a defect with the print, because we just communicate all the time. And we put the focus on stuff that is not machine made or not as uniform. And that's what makes it special. And that's why your Jamini product is different from somebody else's Jamini product. And that is something that we sell. Yeah.
Oh, no, fabulous. No, great to hear that insight. Vinu, I mean, you got a very complex task when you had to source so many brands, multiple brands across categories. How do you go about thinking about prioritizing your inventory or showcasing, or how do you go about even qualifying suppliers? For example, a lot of people in the audience would want to say, how do I get on board with Weeklusive and showcase my product?
Right. No, and it is in fact the most important job, right? It is, you can use the word curating, you can use the word merchandising, but we have a team dedicated, we call them the curators, who actually search for these brands, sometimes even visit them, sometimes actually consume the product in whatever form. And we have a checklist of how to determine if they have the right product that we can market globally as well, right? It goes from, starting from the quality of the brand to how they have, defined how the product is made with quality parameters, how they have packaged or not yet, which we can help with, and also to understand what kind of audience have they reached out to so far that they have got some success with. So there's a lot of these tests that we go through with the brand before we determine that they're ready for us to be able to market them globally. Whenever there are gaps, we help them with that. For example, there is a IAS officer who was running a farm in Uttarakhand, growing mustard oil and olive oil and a few other things like that. And yes, fantastic. The products are great. It's got a story of how it is done, how it is grown, etc. But then we had to help them with the packaging and how it can be marketed to the rest of the world. So yes, we look at the, let's call it the substance and the core values of the product and how it is originated, and we help them with the rest of it if it's possible. Now, the one thing that we can't is one of the questions that we should ask them is, are you ready for the supply and demand situation, right? So a lot of them do small batches, and I'll give you an example. Orissa is famous for its Patachitra art, but very few people know that because of the years of how they, I mean, it takes a long time, but years and years of people buying in bulk and selling it, through their outlets at a higher price has kind of got them to only cater to one or two such sources, right? So if you wanted to get them to sell to get a higher price for themselves or a fair price, they don't have the volume because they are committed to do 10 and it's going to, a particular gallery. So in that case, I can't market them where an order comes in and they're not able to supply, even though it meets all the criteria. So there is a lot of back-end maneuvering before you actually see it on the site, because our word is that it is authentic, reliable, and you will get it delivered on your doorstep.
All right. Okay, great. So, approximately how many categories are there right now on Weeklusive?
About 8 to 9, broadly speaking.
Okay.
Right, from food, personal care, furnishing, fashion, including experiences, which include travel or other such experiences. So it across these, and for good measure, we have added a few travel experience packages as well. And again, these categories, I mean, we have to go all the way from flowers, which are a loss leader for us, up to expensive chocolates or art, for that matter. And MF Hussein is not easy to ship across the globe, and the logistics of how you package it and customs clearance in different countries. So it depends. We decide the merchandising based on the geography, right? So and hence the categories allows us to also verify how people browse, and each country has. I mean, to go to Japan, they're big on conscious food.
Yeah.
So you know that you want to highlight that. Art, US is a big market for art. So it all varies in how we want to present that and engage, and using data analytics to determine where to to highlight the most.
No, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because Usha made a great point, because I paraphrase her view as building a community, because she's constantly communicating newsletters and all of that. She's essentially building a community of people with a certain kind of a taste. Usha, I'll come to you more about tell us about the community and how that's evolving. I want to, because from what you're saying, you're also in some ways building a community of people who have a penchant for certain kind of luxury high-end products, which all happen to be Desi and Indian, right? Whereas communicating to a Desi is a lot easier because of the familiarity. Communicating to a non-Desi is that much more challenging, right? Because from whatever I know is that people outside of India want to wear Indian clothes when it's Indian festival, right? Or they go into an Indian wedding, right? If they want to make it part of their everyday wear or everyday usage, a vetiver soap or a perfume, right? How do you make that shift happen? Which essentially means using Indian brands for so many things.
Sure. So first of all, it's actually harder to communicate to the Desis more than it is to culturally open people, because there's a certain assumption that they know that. For example, I'll give you an example of. So one of our products is a thali. Now the thali, if you have lived in India, it's a round or a square plate with lots of cups. Now the slightly elevated version of it to fit the palate of a culturally open person as well is the thali has got fixed cups in it in certain spaces and certain spots. Right now, if I were to try to communicate that to a Desi, they're expecting to see multiple pieces. But so rather than trying to communicate, what the product is, which is there in a lot of the write-ups, it's about trying to tell the story of why eating in such a way in amongst friends or on an occasion is actually a fantastic way to present your own food, as well as something to talk about at the dinner table. So that's how we communicate, which actually resonates both with Desis and the culturally open, right? Because it's about sensibility. It's not about the product. It's about you and how you will enjoy the product, as opposed to what the product is made of, because the details are always going to be there. And also, I don't know if I mentioned that we also have a content channel, right? So it's about, you watch a movie, you watch a show, and you want to buy that thing. And that's where you experience what it's all about, right? It's sometimes very different. I mean, I don't know if all of us, I mean, I certainly have seen what's called a charpai. It is one of those beds that sit outside a home, stitched with rope. Right? Now that is actually being sold on our site as a furnishing piece. It's a talking point, but it's about understanding why it is designed in such a way, and it's good for your back, etc. It's how the story is being told. And if we're having a show that is being shown as to how it is being used, it further evokes that nostalgia or the need to want to have that in your house, right? So that's how we communicate, not the product, but what it is meant for you, as well as why it was designed in the first place, for what reason. So that's how we are trying to build the communities, rather than splitting between Desis and by the way, most of the Desis we are talking to are second generation, right? So they're more Americanized or more Frenched or more British, right? Than their parents. And for them, they've only heard it through their parents, but they still have that cultural root somewhere in their brain, and we're connecting with that.
Understood. Got it.
I want to show you this. I don't know if you can see it on our Instagram page today. Is a photo of a charpoy.
Ha! Fantastic.
Oh, well,
that we
lovely.
sell as well. So yeah.
Outstanding. Yeah,
That's-
no. So, people don't know what a charpoy is. And also there are artifacts that evoke such nostalgia from the past. And when you see a movie like Bend It Like Beckham or the Hotel Marigold or the Kaun Banega Crorepati equivalent and the US,
Slumdog.
Slumdog
Slumdog.
Millionaire, there's a lot of product placement there, right? And people see the tea kettle, and the tea kettle becomes a very emotional piece to keep in your house instead of the teapot. So I'm saying these are ways of how to communicate that, which sometimes are lost memories, right? And this is really what we are trying to evoke. Because
Yeah.
I can sell a shirt or a pant, and it's I'm going to compete with 100 other people.
Yeah.
Not useful.
Yeah. No, it's great to hear this, how you're going about expanding your categories and how content and communication is, so intertwined because, to communicate those benefits, right? Usha, my question is, before we open up the Q&A session, there are already a few comments that I want to cover. We have about 10 minutes or so for the session. Who's your target audience, Usha? And is it the millennial? Is it the working woman of a certain age group? Who's your target audience?
So our target audience basically is somebody who's between 28 to 45, 45, 48. That's the age group that's really Germany fan. Very culturally open, who loves to travel, try different foods, and pretty urban, actually. So very open to discovering new things. And our client base today is 90% European. We have about 10% of American customers. And out of that 90%, I would say 80% is French. Yeah.
Very nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you're constantly, from what you told, is expanding your product portfolio.
Yeah.
So today, could you share with us what's your product mix like?
So our product mix is, I would say, 70% home products, which could be like tableware, napkins, tablecloths, table mats, cushion covers. So it's about 70%. 25% would be accessories. That would be like scarves, bags, pouches, things like that. And the remaining would be what I call Usha products. So they would be things that I would change every season based on what I like. So for example, right now we are doing a lot of kantha covers. Next season, it could be baskets. So the season after that. So this is a little surprise element that we bring in every season, that every season we'll have specially curated by Usha collection, which is not going to be in the catalog forever. So you got to get it now. And very small units, because they are one of a kind, or they would be impossible to remake, or they are vintage pieces. They could be jewelry. So yeah, that would be the small surprise category we do every time.
Fantastic. So could we see one day Germany being part of the catwalks of Paris Fashion Week? And yeah,
absolutely.
Yes. So we have few questions. Please have your questions coming. I want to share a few of those. I think this is a question addressed to you, Vinu. If you are there's a question from Trisha Saikia. If you have a small artisan goods brand, how do I sort of become, how do I list it on your Weeklusive, right? That's a common question.
Right.
She's also from Assam, and how do you support small entrepreneurs from India who want to export to the US?
Right. So the later part of the question, we take care of everything from picking up the product that is packaged from your store or warehouse.
Yeah.
And all the issues in between till it's delivered to the home of the buyer. So that part of the equation is solved by us completely, including the payment, getting the customer to pay with their mode of their choice of payment mode, etc. So really it is about making sure, and before I lose that, sales at weeklusive.com or support@beclusive.com. Please send us your information, and we'll have someone get in touch with you to walk you through the process of how we do it. Now, coming to the real question, of course, we have, just to give you an example, we discovered I'm going to use the broadly translated term from Tamil to English, an auntie in the very traditional areas of Chennai, who is making these vessels out of soapstone and other materials, including copper and tin and bronze and so forth. And for a lot of people who have spent their times in kitchens of the South India, this is a very very often, fondly remembered way of eating food from cooked in a particular vessel. So we worked with them, highlighted the story of what are the benefits of cooking with such vessels, helped them understand how to package it because these are heavy, and got them on board. So if you have done 99% of the job, which is to build the product, the rest of it is how we help you to then package and ship it and tell a story about it. Right
Sure.
now, the artisan may not have a story written down on a website. That's okay. They may not even have a website. That's okay.
Sure.
We will have our writers work with them and build the story, and that's how we get them on board.
No, great. So I think, there's a question from Jayanti Hari to you, Vinu. Can you tell us your USP, unique selling proposition, given there are a lot of brands out there offering Indian exclusive?
So the key USP for us is, apart from the fact that it's curated and we're discovering unique items that are not easily available, the main USP is how we market and reach the audiences around the world.
Right.
Not, as I said, not just Desis, but also the culturally open.
Right.
So it is really that. I mean, we are not pretending to be the best in every category, but the choice and the ability to identify such unique items in a single platform, and the ability to deliver that worldwide, delivered on the door, at the door. That's really what we are focused on.
Got it. Yeah. So there's another question from Harini Lakshmi. How do you price products for other markets? So Usha, I think you can also sort of chip in terms of what was your thought process when it comes to pricing products, particularly handcraft products, high-end products.
So I told you I benchmarks against the best French brand. So that was really my guideline, and I said I had to place the Indian product at par with a French product, or with an Italian product, or with a Japanese product, and we had to sell to the same customer who would be buying a crafted piece from Japan or from France, who would be willing to pay the same thing for an Indian product. So that was my guiding principle, basically, and that's how we started. There was no reason why an Indian craft product would sell less than a Japanese craft product.
Fantastic. Great. Vinu, what's your sort of thought process when you have so many multiple brands? Somebody reaches out to you. Do you actually get into validating whether the pricing is right or not?
So first of all, we don't influence pricing. We shouldn't and we can't.
Yeah.
But having said that, as we go through our process of selecting, there are a few, like for example, if they're already selling on Amazon, and no disrespect to Amazon, they do a great job. It is going to be discounted, and there's no way that you can compete with that, right? So as it is, then the positioning of that also changes. So we don't interfere if that is the process. Having said that, if it's a unique product and they have priced it in a certain way for the Indian market, we have a markup which includes logistics, shipping, customs, and our commissions for marketing, and advise them on what that markup will be, and that would be the price based on their MRP. So we don't influence. But if we do find competing, for example, we have a lot of Indian brands like Ritu Kumar and Abraham and Thakur. We are not going to tell them that they are overpriced or underpriced, but we have to decide whether we can sell that in the rest of the world compared to other products that are. So in other words, we don't typically try to get competitive brands that have very similar products and priced very differently, because it's not going to work for them, it's not going to work for us.
Thanks, Sunil. So we have a couple of questions, and then before we wind up the session, one is that a question to you, Usha, from Hema Balakrishnan. What does an Indian brand aspiring to sell in France need to know? It's a very open-ended question, but any tips, pointers in terms of what
you need to know the French customer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the basic thing. You have to know your customer. You have to know what her motivations are, aspirations are, what she loves. You really have to know your customer. That's the basic thing. There's no other way to do this. So in fact, a lot of people, I personally know a lot of people, young women like me who came to France, got married to French men, arrived here, wanted to start their own thing, whether it was craft-based, food-based, just couldn't make it, because for them it was just very opportunistic, like, okay, I come from this part of India, we have this great craft, I live in this beautiful city, Paris, why can I not sell my craft? It's the basic, very, simple way to think about things, but it doesn't work like that. You really need to know your customer, where she's shopping, what is she buying, and how you can give her something that will appeal to her. So that's the only thing, know your customer.
KYC. Thanks. The other question is from Anupam Sharma. How critical is packaging for food products brand, or generally, can you talk about, both of you, about packaging? Because packaging is big here in India as well for brands, particularly because they're being delivered online. But in a retail environment, I'm sure Germany is also selling online. So what do you keep in mind when it comes to packaging? Because there is this environmentally conscious sustainability angle to things. There is a brand angle to things. There is this recyclable angle to things. How do you go about deciding what works best for you?
So very simple. We work with a super logistics provider. They've got it all sorted. They give us the best options in terms of packaging, recycled plastic, recycled paper. They give us a whole gamut of things, and we choose for every product category. But what we do is, for every little product that goes out, we tell them where it's coming from and who made it and what is the process behind it. So the packaging is, of course, the packaging, but it's the brand story that's very important for us. So that goes out. Sometimes we even, like, what we'll do is we'll scan a handwritten message, because the logistics provider is very far away. So we would, if we know it's the birthday, then we would write a hand message and we would scan it and send it to our logistics guys. So it's very manual. It's very manual, but that's what keeps our customers loyal to us. So we got to keep that in mind. But as far as the quality of the packaging material is concerned, we are very lucky to have like a super provider who gives us everything that we need, and we just pick and choose and say, okay, for this size, this weight, you use this; for this size, this weight, you use that.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, both of you. I think we more or less covered all the questions. There's a question from Dr. Kavita Gupta asking, how do we work with Germany? You can write to NICE.org. We will happy to connect you with Usha, and send us a brief description and introduction of who you are and what your company does, so that's relevant to Usha as well. And then there is a recording of this session that's available on our YouTube channel under NICE.org, and you'll be able to see it in some time once it's uploaded. Any final thoughts, Vinu and Usha? We'll conclude the session. Before we conclude the session,
I'll just say something very quickly. So again, for all of you who are listening to this conversation and you're thinking about going global, selling to a product, there's a lot of beautiful stuff in India. I mean, everyone in the world knows that. But just to keep in mind, you've really, really, really got to know your customer, because the beautiful stuff is everywhere. And do a lot of homework. I mean, I don't know how many times I've failed before. Nobody talks about that. You see Germany, the brand, and wow, you did something. But there have been so many mistakes in terms of quality defects, in terms of production that hasn't come on time, like what Vinu was saying. So it takes years to get that right, to get the supply chain right. And I think that's something we don't think about. We just say, okay, we'll do our marketing, we'll get some VC funding, we'll put the money in, we'll launch this brand, and we'll put it on a platform. But it takes a lot of work to get the supply chain right, especially when you're working with craft products. So that's something that you can't like fast forward. It takes the time that it takes.
It's a fantastic piece of advice, Usha, because it's not easy when you're not located in India and you're working remotely, and to explain to people what works and what doesn't work. Right? Yeah. Vinu, your thoughts?
Yeah.
We conclude the session.
Perfect summary from Usha. It is quite daunting. I mean, first of all, you have to get the idea for the product, then you have to design it, then you have to get the staff and get the manufacturing or the production done. So there's a lot of inbound challenges as well, right? And once you're ready with the product, then you have to worry about how do I build a website? I think somebody asked how tough is it to build a website, and then you have to worry about shipping and packaging, then laws. For example, when you're shipping food or personal care, there are laws on what is allowed and what's not. When you're shipping art, there are laws on what is going to be shipped or not. Then there's a question of volume, weight. So there's a lot of, and then the daunting task of finding who your right customer is. So it is unless you are a large organization where you can do all of the above. My advice is focus on your product first. Of course, eventually you may want to do all of the above, but get people to help with your rest of the out of the company products processes, like logistics, like shipping, like marketing, like reaching the right consumers, right? So and when you're as big as Amazon, you don't need anybody else. You can do it all in-house. But
Right.
until then, there's got to be enough of an ecosystem so that you have the best product available. And one of the focus points should be distribution. How do you distribute, right? So you have a great product, but you can't go to Harrods or something like that and tell them to distribute. You have to first start from the bottom tier, find a very local shop or a community that can distribute as an affiliate, then start raising up once you have success. So my advice is outsource as much as you can, except the product.
Yes, partnerships is the way to go. On that note, I'd like to conclude this session. Thank you both, Usha Bora and Vinu Sundaresan, for participating in the session and sharing your insights and thoughts about building a global brand. I'm sure everybody enjoyed this session as much as I did. Thanks once again from the NICE team.
Thank you so much, Vidya. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.